Yeah, Bang Bang Rahal. A couple of people on my comments asked me about Malcolm Price and Lenny McLean and Roy Shaw, Lou Yates and Cliff Fields, and also a guy that can really have it, Johnny Waldron. Let's start off with Johnny Waldron first, yeah? Johnny Waldron, good boxer, mate. Good professional fighter. Light heavyweight or cruiserweight. Very fast and can bang. He knocked Lenny McLean out in the first round, and I think he also knocked him out in the second round, yeah? Of 2 fights they had. Malcolm Price, personally, I think he'd have his hands filled with Johnny Waldron. I think Johnny Waldron would absolutely annihilate him as far as boxing is concerned. But on the street is a different thing altogether. People know that Lenny McLean was not all that good in the boxing ring, yeah? I think he had about 12 fights or 11 fights. He lost about 6 or 7 of those, I'm not quite sure. He was no good in the boxing ring, but he was good on the pavement. I don't think he never got beat on the pavement. That's what I was told. Whether or not it's true, I don't know. I don't come from that area, North London. I come from West London, and I only can remember him doing unlicensed fighting, and a couple of fights that I've seen him on, like one with Kevin Paddock. I see him and Johnny Waldron. So I've seen him both times get beat. Yeah. Same with Roy Shaw. Roy Shaw, when he fought Lenny McLean lost the first fight, but after that he battered him. He battered Roy Shaw big time. But how would they stand with Johnny Waldron? How would Roy Shaw go with Johnny Waldron? I think what Johnny Waldron would have bashed him up as well, would have boxed him, would have knocked him out, would have knocked Roy Shaw out. But Malcolm Price, I love to have seen him fight Johnny Waldron. I don't think it'll ever come to that. I don't think it was into the unlicensed fighting at all, Malcolm Price. But my predictions, if Malcolm Price fought Johnny Waldron, I think Johnny Waldron would beat him. I don't know about stopping him. Maybe stop him, just overpower him too much so, and he couldn't take any more punches. Because Johnny Waldron was a good banger, good puncher, and he was a consistent puncher. So personally, I think that he would have stopped Malcolm Price. Cliff Fields. What about Cliff? I don't think Cliff and Johnny Waldron ever got together to have a fight. I think, personally myself, Johnny Waldron was a very, very fantastic boxer. Cliff Field was a person that just went forward all the time. He could take bangs. He could hit Cliff Field with a sledgehammer and not knock him over. But he has been beat with cut eyes and things like that. I think Johnny Waldron, personally myself, I think Johnny Waldron would have overpowered him and maybe cut him up and stopped the fight, you know, personally myself. Who else is there? Malcolm Price, personally myself, would be one of the best fighters ever. I don't think he was the hardest man, or Cliff Fields or Lenny McLean was the hardest people around at that time. There were some good fighters in my days, some really, really good fighters. I mean, you know, people that you didn't really hear a lot of. You know, you didn't hear a lot of Kevin Paddock. You didn't hear a lot of Sid Paddock. I know as professional fighters, they didn't have a bad record. You know, I think Sid Paddock fought John O'Gardner. I felt John O'Gardner stopped him in the second round. John O'Gardner was a fantastic fighter. I mean, it's a different kettle of fish, right, with pros and unlicensed fights. A lot of unlicensed fighters are being ex-pros, like Roy Shaw, ex-pro, ex-middleweight, I think. Was he super middleweight? I'm not quite sure. Lenny McLean, who's never ever put boxing gloves on in his life before until the unlicensed fighting. Very good on the street. He used to knock everybody out on the street, bash him up on the street. But as far as in the ring, boxing was concerned, he was no good. It's as easy as that. I've been told off for talking about Lenny the way I do. I'm not slagging Lenny down. Lenny was a mate of mine, mate. We used to talk together, we used to spar together. I'm on about Lenny as a fighter in the ring. Johnny Waldron was a lot better than Lenny. That's why I beat him twice. Cliff Fields was a lot better than Lenny. I think Cliff Fields beat him twice, or I'm not quite sure, maybe the once. Roy Shaw beat Lenny once, and then Lenny beat Roy Shaw twice after that. Yeah. But as far as Malcolm Price is concerned, I think Malcolm Price would have been a good unlicensed fighter, He'd have been up there in the top somewhere. I think Matt Legg had been around in them days, I think Matt Legg would have been in the top 3 or 4. He'd have been thereabouts at that time. I know that I would have been thereabouts at that time. I'd have been somewhere there. I know I've not fought Lenny. I didn't fight Lenny. I was supposed to fight Lenny on 2 shows. But I'm not going to say I could have beat Lenny easy, but I think I could have beat him as I'm a fighter. I ain't going to say Lenny could have beat me. I'm a fighter. Roy Shaw, I love Roy Shaw. I like Roy Shaw as an unlicensed fighter, as a person too. He was a very powerful individual, Roy Shaw. He wasn't fighting no man. That would have been a good fight. Roy Shaw and Malcolm Price, that would have been a good fight, mate. That would have been a perfect fight for Malcolm Price. Also, Lou Yates would have been a perfect fight for Malcolm Price. Both on par, both fighters, both, on the street, good fighters. In the ring, not too bad. I mean, Roy Shaw, I think he beat, did he beat Lou Yates? I think over a cut eye, was it a cut eye, a stoppage or something? He beat Lou Yates. I think they say Lou Yates won, but Roy Shaw got the fight. But personally, myself, what I've been told, Roy Shaw beat him easy. I don't know, but that would have been a good fight with Malcolm Price and Lou Yates. I would love to fight Lou Yates. I would love to fight Malcolm Price. I mean, if it's the same Malcolm Price that I remember when I was in Aylesbury YP, it got to be, because there can only be one Malcolm Price. It's got to be him. I've not seen a young picture of Malcolm Price when he was 17, 18. I've not seen a picture of him yet, but the guy is tattooed in my head. Yeah, very 5'10", short, thick set guy, big neck, massive. Yeah, quite big teeth. Malcolm. Always, his teeth were pure white, and just could fight, and he was quite. What I was told, that Malcolm was a good boxer, but he was more. He was more of a brawler than a boxer. More of a brawler than a boxer. That's why I fancied that Johnny Waldron would have beat Malcolm Price. Maybe not easy, but he'd have beat him, because Malcolm Price didn't give up. Yeah, he'd have kept going forward. But there's a lot of difference between a fighter like that, who's a cruiserweight, light heavyweight, in the ring. The ring's their craft, isn't it? It's what they do. It's a craft to them, isn't it? Good fighters. It's a craft, mate. I mean, look at Tyson Fury. I mean, he that ring, he can do what he likes in that ring. You know what I mean? I remember Matt Legg telling me when he went to Manchester, I think it was, to spar with Tyson Fury. He said when he got in the ring to spar him, he said he got into the ring and he was throwing punches at Matt. He couldn't believe it. He said, Ray, it was just got in the ring. Tyson Fury just got in the ring and he was throwing punches as if like 10 foot away. You couldn't get into him to throw a punch. You couldn't get into him. No matter what he was trying to do, you could not get into him to throw a punch. It was like the ring craft is unbelievable. He ties you up, the weight on him. He said he just knows that ring like a puzzle. He knows how to put it together, yeah? And I believe that. I've seen Tyson Fury fight, and he's a good fighter. Why I got into Tyson Fury, I don't know, but I was talking about fighters that know the ring, yeah? And he does know the ring. He's a good, the rings, it's his craft, is what he does. That's why he's world champion, yeah? And as I say, Johnny Waldron, to me, with Cliff Fields, them two would be 1 and 2. Malcolm Price, I think, personally, he could beat Lenny. Personally, I think he could beat Roy Shaw. And personally, I think he could beat Lou Yates. Right? I think he may be able to stop them 3. But as far as Johnny Waldron's concerned, and Cliff Fields are concerned, no, I don't think so. I definitely think that this Malcolm Price is the same price that Malcolm Price I was away with. I'd love to have fought Malcolm Price, maybe not as a fight as such, because he was my mate. You know, it's very hard to fight a mate. You know what I mean? It's awkward. Even as these fighters are getting in the ring and they fighting their mates, it's a bit awkward, isn't it? It's like anytime you're fighting a mate or playing a mate for some sport, it's a lot harder to beat. It's a lot harder to beat them, and it would be if there's some individual people, you know. And you know, Tyson Fury, he said that is it what's it called? It's AJ. Personally, myself could never ever beat Anthony Joshua. AJ could never beat Tyson Fury. Sorry about that. You know, I'm like tongue twisted. He could never beat him. I mean, AJ could never beat him. Tyson Fury is just too good. He is just too good a fighter. You know, and it's not. I was started talking about Malcolm Price because people on my comments are saying about Malcolm Price. My mate Matt Legg has just done a video on Malcolm Price and Lenny McLean. I haven't really seen it. He done it fantastically the way he done it. He's good when Matt Legg does a video. He's fantastic the way he does it, and he deserves everything he gets for doing it the way he does. I think personally that Malcolm Price would be up there in the top. Would have been up there in the top, maybe 2. He couldn't have beat Johnny Waldron, and he definitely couldn't have beat Cliff Fields. Cliff Fields would have been too big for him and too hard for him, and you know, just to tie him up, move him around and smash him to pieces. Really, I think Johnny Waldron would have been too much of a good boxer for Malcolm Price. He'd have just walked round the ring, jabbed his head off, and then knocked him out. It doesn't matter how hard you are as a street fighter. You get in that ring with a good pro, or an ex-pro who's had X amount of fights. It's hard, especially if you've never been in a ring
as a professional fighting another professional. You see, I mean, come on, it is what it is. It is what it says. Professional boxer. Anybody that does anything professional is better than someone who does it amateurly. I mean, when you're training as an amateur fighter, they say, how true it is, I don't know. They say that a good amateur can beat a good pro in the first 2 rounds, because a good amateur goes out. He only fighting in that ring for 3 rounds, 3-minute rounds. So he got to go out and do what he can to beat that man, yeah, in 3 rounds. As a professional fighter, you get 10 to 12 rounds. So you can just take it as it comes, yeah, and fight the fight as you want to fight it, yeah, because you've got 10 rounds or 12 rounds to do it in. So that's what they've always said. A good amateur will beat a professional in the first 2 to 3 rounds. That's what I've been told, and that's what I think. I mean, it's not about me. Shut me up. It's not about me. It's about other fighters, yeah. But I've seen some good amateurs. John L. Gardner, he was a fantastic amateur fighter. He had so many sponsors around him. It's unbelievable, because I knew that he would be someone. This guy, John L. Gardner, was so fit. He was in the same time as me, boxing at the same time as me. He was so fit. How he never got to meet me and him, I don't know. He was open class. I was intermediate. He could fight anybody. I never can forget when I fought a guy called Howard James. I keep going on about me. Forget about me anyway. Forget about it. But I'm just on about John L. Gardner. John L. Gardner, good fighter. I mean, Paul Sykes. Look at Paul Sykes. Good fighter, mate, Paul Sykes. Don't worry about that. I think he fought John L. Gardner. They say he turned his back on John L. Gardner. Someone said, no, he just turned to the side. John L. Gardner beat him. Paul Sykes was a very, very hard individual person, yeah? No matter what people say about him, he was still a very, very good fighter. Some people said to me that he come down to London, which I've never been told this. It's the first time someone told me yesterday, that he come down to London to fight Lenny McLean or fight Roy Shaw, and it never happened. Whether that's true, I don't know. Paul Sykes, I feel that Paul Sykes, if he got into the licence fighting big time, I think he'd have been up there. You know, you had good pros, mate. Good pros get into his own licence fighting, let's take it over, really, when you think about it, you know what I mean? Because it's swingcraft, isn't it? It's their game. It's their game, you know. You have got street fighters that will, like, you know, you go out there like a lunatic, and if they don't knock you out within the first round or two, they blow out. You know. I mean, that's one thing. Let's not talk about me again, but it's one thing a lot of fighters that I knew. Paul Fitzgerald, good fighter, Paul. Paul Fitzgerald, he was an unlicensed fighter, but he used to train. I used to see him running regular. Run. And it's about keeping yourself fit. Because to be a fighter, believe it or not, mate, out in the street, people know this. You ever fight out in the street, if it ain't over within 2 minutes, you're dead. That's why you must always keep yourself 100% fit if you're known, and you're known as a fighter, because there'll be always someone out there that wants a fighter. Always. People on the door. These people on the door, these big muscular guys, yeah, on the door. If they don't finish the fight within 30 seconds, or half an hour, 30 seconds, I can be 30 seconds and half an hour, 30 seconds to a minute, it's all over for them. Because the heart is going to collapse. They can't take that punishment. They can't take it. The heart won't. They can't get no air into their bodies because they can get air, in, but not into their muscles. Yeah, and so that's why me. Oh, fuck me. I'm in it again, but I will say it quickly. But me, when I was on the doors, or when I was unlicensed fighting, I used to train. Train, because you never know, yeah? You never know. You never know when it's you need it, yeah? You need it. I remember years back, getting in the ring as an amateur, down the clubs as well as you go to. And sometimes you get in the ring with someone, it's just run around you, mate. Run around you, phone punch, bump, bump, bump. And you must keep yourself fit. People out there, you must keep yourself fit. I mean, when I see what's it called? When I see Lenny, I see Lenny McLean when he was training. He trained really hard. He trained really, really hard, but he got into the steroids. Once you get into the steroids, the oxygen's a lot harder. The oxygen, your heart becomes a muscle. Yeah. Your heart is a muscle, yeah. Once you're on the steroids, the muscle starts building around your heart. It builds around your heart, and it's tight. It's harder to breathe. It's harder to pump that blood, oxygen around your body. That's the trouble with steroids. Whether or not steroids are changed today, and it's different because of that, A lot of runners take steroids, or did take steroids, but certain types of steroids, But quick spurts is good for you. If you, in other words, quick spurts is good, but a long one, you can't run 10 miles with steroids. When you're an amateur and you're running every day, 8 mile, 10 mile every day. That's what I'm saying about a good amateur. A good amateur will beat a pro. Not a first class pro, but a pro for the first 2 or 3 rounds. He will smash him to pieces in the first 2 rounds because they're out there to win that fight in 2 or 3 rounds. As a pro goes over 8, 10 rounds. I've already said it. Malcolm Price, I'm only gutted that I didn't see it in my book. I mean, Street Fighters. It's only when I was going through Street Fighters, just page by page, being that I'm in Street Fighters, you miss all the rest out and you go straight to your own page and you keep reading it. Let people read. You don't go into the beginning of it. But because I moved my place here, I put my books up and this, that and the other one over the side, and I pulled out the book of Street Fighters and it fell on the floor. And it fell on the floor to the page Malcolm Price. I went, no, you're mad. I've been looking for Malcolm Price for years, since my YP. And I see it. And I really try to look at it as if, is it the same person? But how many Malcolm Prices are there in Wales? Anybody else know a Malcolm Price in Wales? It's got to be him. It can't be no one else. And I'm just gutted that he died, yeah. It slaughtered me, really, because the man was a proper man. He wasn't afraid of no man. He wasn't afraid of no man, mate. And when he hit you, he hit you. But my predictions are that maybe he could beat Roy, maybe he could beat Lenny, maybe he could beat Lou Yates, but I don't think he could beat Johnny Waldron, or I don't think he could beat Cliff Fields. I think Cliff Fields would stop him, maybe in the later rounds, and I think Johnny Waldron would stop him maybe in the later rounds too. It'd be too much for him. They'd bang too hard. On the street, On the street, Malcolm Price may be one of the hardest men ever to live. Personally, I think. Very, very hard man. But every town, every city, there's always one or two men there that can really have it. That's why I'm telling people out there to try and get older street fighters, yeah? Because there are people in that Street Fighters books, in that book, that come from different areas, different hard men, you know? Work in clubs, pubs, bars, and all that, yeah? And street fighters as well. I got in that book by chance. I was lucky to get in it. But there are some fantastic, fantastic fighters in there. I mean, Brian Cottrell, I recognised him in there from my YouTube. Brian Cottrell's a big, 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 powerful man. Massive, powerful man. But there again, he was on the roids. And he was very clumsy. But I see him on the bag, yeah? And I see him on the pads. If he hit you, he'd take your head off his shoulders. But if someone just moved like Johnny Waldron and like Cliff Fields, they would have just annihilated my old mucker. They'd have just annihilated him. He wouldn't have, Brian would not have stood a chance. Even maybe Lenny and him would have been a good match. Maybe Lenny and him would have been a good match because they were both big people, you know, and they just stood there and threw punches rather than move around the ring. Roy Shaw was a person that, I know Lenny beat him twice after, but Roy Shaw could move around the ring a bit because he was a middleweight or light, mid-heavy. Got me, mate. Shut up, mate. A middleweight, yeah. And he was, I think he was a super. I'm not quite sure. Superman middleweight. Roy Shaw as a professional. I don't think he had many fights as a professional fighter. People that are watching my podcast or my video will tell me how many fights Roy Shaw had as a professional fighter. I'm not quite sure. Lenny had no fights as a professional fighter. Lloyd, is it Lloyd, what? No. Did he? No. Lenny McLean, he had none. Lloyd Wolfram, the black guy that put me under concussion, I think he was not a bad pro at all. Brian Hall, another professional fighter that I thought Brian Hall, good fighter, but not in the same way as John, yeah. But anyway, mate, I get all tongue-tied, you know. I forget what I'm talking about, but I ain't forgot what I'm talking about. I'm talking about fighters, aren't I? No, I'm joking. But anyway, Malcolm Price. Personally, I think that he'd have beat Lenny. Personally, I think he'd have beat Roy Shaw. Personally, I think he'd have beat maybe Lou Yates. I don't think he could have beat Johnny Waldron, and I don't think he could have beat Cliff Fields. That's me. Out of all that lot, I think Johnny Waldron would have been number one. I think Cliff Fields would have been number two. That's what I think. I would like to fight Johnny Waldron, and I would like to fight Cliff Fields. Even though I sparred with Cliff Fields, it's a lot different, yeah? Cliff hit me a few times on the chin and rocked me up a bit, yeah? I respected Cliff Fields big time. I really did respect him, mate, as a man. And anyway, I was just gutted, yeah, that me and Malcolm Price never met again, yeah, and because we was like in prison in my YP, it got to be the same Malcolm Price there. In my YP, we was mates. He was a very powerful man in my YP. Anyway, this is Bang Bang Radio. If you like this video, please subscribe. And lovely. Take care. Nice one.